What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Nerdy Professor podcast, where we talk about everything black, bold, and beautiful. I'm your host, the Nerdy Professor. Last episode, we talked about black Canadians post-World War II struggles. Viola Desmond's run-in with the nice folks of New Glasgow, Africville's displacement. In this episode, we're going to discuss the Black Power movement in Canada, but first, let's talk about some anime. We are going to take a look at Terror and Resonance, one of Studio Mappa's earlier shows. This anime takes place in an alternate realistic Japan, and it hits the ground running within the first 3 minutes. We know within these 3 minutes that we're dealing with two terrorists that have the knowledge and skills to pull off a heist, stealing an absolutely demonic looking nuclear bomb from a heavily fortified government building in Japan. Then, 6 months later, it skips forward, where we are introduced to characters 9 and 12. 9 is the cool, level-headed, serious type, and 12 is the energetic, heart-on-your-sleeve type, the one that will most likely get you into trouble. They are introduced as two seemingly normal high school age boys who we later find out are the people who stole the bomb. Lisa is another character that we are introduced to by her being bullied by her classmates, and we later find out she has a generally hard life. She has an overprotective mother to the point of abuse. She doesn't really have any friends at school, hence the bullying, and honestly wants this world that gave her this life to come to an end. Lastly, we have Kenjiro Shibazaki, a detective from the Tokyo Police Department who has that itch, that obsession to solve the case, which is the reason we meet him in a cramped room that he has been demoted to with one other officer who is literally watching cat videos on the clock. I wish I could spend my time like that. Mind you, this is still the first half of the first episode. In the second half of the episode, we see 9 and 12 knock out the power of a huge skyscraper. Then they blow it up. But no one was hurt. That's by design and a common thread throughout the show. During this high octane scene, Lisa becomes their accomplice because she doesn't want to die. They are gentlemen terrorists, if you will. Okay, hold up, pause. You might be wondering why a show about terrorists relates to black Canadians during the Black Power movement. The characters are trying to bring to light the horrible conditions that they were put through by the government. Hey, quick commercial break. Running this podcast isn't easy or cheap. If you all would like to support this podcast, please visit my website link below. Thank you for your support. Now back to the show. I want to give a little preamble on the Black Power movement in Canada. The focal points of the Black Power movement were in Toronto, Halifax, and Montreal. In 1962, Ontario enacted the Human Rights Code, which prohibits discrimination. This is thanks to activists like Bromley Armstrong. Next, the Montreal chapter of the Negro Citizenship Association begins publishing a newsletter called The Expression, which takes a more assertive stance against racism. The African American Progressive Association, or the AAPA, because who's saying all that, in Toronto was one of the first Black Power leaning groups in Canada. The AAPA was founded by Jose Garcia, Norman Otis Richmond, and Ted Watkins, a US-born football player. The organization originally started with a Marxist focus and took inspiration from Malcolm X's organization, the Organization of African American Unity. Both of these organizations are Pan-African organizations built to promote global solidarity among people of African descent and fight for human rights, rather than just civil rights. The AAPA attracted members like Lenny Johnston and his wife Gwen, who were communists in the 1930s, but later left the party and joined the AAPA in 1968. Also, in that same year, the Johnstons opened Third World Books and Crafts, Toronto's first independent Black-owned bookstore. Third World would later become a hub for discussions and meetings on Black nationalism. AAPA also created a newsletter called the Harambe, which is Swahili for Let's Come Together. The AAPA would make its first public appearance commemorating the assassination of Malcolm X. Unfortunately, the organization would eventually fall apart because their focus was on Black American problems, and they didn't really focus on Black Canadian problems. It's important to note that only Jose isn't from the US. He's from Aruba. The AAPA would split into two parties, the Marxist Revolutionary Nationalist and the Conservative Nationalist. From this split, grew two other organizations. The Black Liberation Front of Canada was created by the Marxist revolutionaries, and the Conservative revolutionaries created the Black Youth Organization. The Black Youth Organization, or BYO, was created with the intent of empowering, as the name tells, Black youth, particularly in education and to help with housing and educational needs. On the other hand, the Black Liberation Front of Canada was a Leninist vanguard organization with the goal of increasing race and class consciousness of African Canadians. During the summer of 1969, the Black Liberation Front of Canada held Black history classes, a film series, rallies, and guest speakers. These organizations were foundational in setting the scene for Canada's Black Power movement. 9 and 12 also set the scene for their terrorist acts by releasing quote-unquote YouTube videos under the name Sphinx. In these videos, they give the police a chance to stop the bombs by posting complex riddles for them to solve. After their first attack, Shibazaki was re-promoted to detective and began helping the Tokyo police force to solve the riddles. As the show goes on, he begins connecting the dots in more ways than one. Earlier in the show, 12 has a dream where he and 9 are younger and running for their lives. We later find out that they were part of a top-secret government program called the Rising Peace Academy. This program was for orphans with savant syndrome. Savant syndrome is where someone displays a particularly high aptitude in one area despite social or intellectual impairment. Think autism or a brain injury. In this project, the orphan kids were drugged and treated inhumanely, hence the numbers for names. They did this to increase the children's abilities with the goal of them becoming government weapons. 9 and 12 wanted to air out the government's dirty laundry by blowing up these specific buildings as a way to send a message. Over in the next province, Montreal, Quebec, began to host a conference that would also send a message and change Black consciousness in Canada forever. The Congress of Black Writers was a 4-day event held at McGill's campus in Montreal. This conference brought together Black thought leaders from all over the United States, the Caribbean, Canada, and the UK. The likes of Michael X, Sierra R. James, Walter Rodney, James Foreman, and Stokely Carmichael were all there. The conference also was a sort of passing of the torch moment from the old generation to the new generation. The goal was to discuss the attainment of Black independence by presenting their opposition to racism, capitalism, colonization, and discrimination. So, to kick off the first day of the conference, there were news reports of custodians at the Nova Scotia cemetery refusing the burial of a young Black girl, driving home the fact that racial discrimination was still kicking in Canada. This event helped direct the conference's discussions toward an emphasis on anti-racist action on behalf of all Black people in Canada and elsewhere. Ideas were presented at the conference in 4 separate sections: the origin and consequences of Black and white confrontation, the germs of modern Black awareness, the re-evaluation of the past, and perspectives for the future. These sections served as a way to question the ideologies around them, like communism, Pan-Africanism, and socialism. The gathering of Black intellectuals was considered a threat by the RCMP. This was due to its potential to galvanize a broad Black liberation consciousness in Canada and beyond. For more information on the Congress of Black Writers, please check out Moving Against the System by David Austin. It is an invaluable source on this subject, and it provides the speeches given at the conference. Also, if you want more on the Black Power movement in Canada, check out A Black Panther in the Great White North by Darren Anthony. It is an amazing stage play that I've seen twice. It follows Fred Hampton and his visit to Regina in Saskatchewan weeks before his death. The Sir George William Affair was a turning point in Canada when it comes to Black consciousness, and a clear beginning to the Black Power movement in Canada. Universities have always been a hotbed for radical and civic action when it comes to reflecting the concerns of society at large, and this is no different in Canada. The Sir George Williams Affair, or Computer Riot, begins its origin at Sir George Williams University, now Concordia University, where a group of primarily Caribbean students accused biology professor Perry Anderson of racism, particularly by giving Black students artificially lower grades. The students lodged an official complaint in April of 1968, But by the fall of the same year, the students felt that the university administration had not taken their complaint seriously. Although the school did set up a committee to look into the matter, the committee ended up being all white. So the students believed that the committee was not impartial, but the committee deemed itself to be. Make that make sense. The students pressed the administration for a public hearing with the student body, and this hearing ended up being a full house. During the hearing, Anderson was exonerated, and in protest, the students walked out of the hearing on January 29th, 1969, and headed to the 9th floor computer center. This started the now legendary occupation of the 9th floor computer lab. For 2 weeks, approximately 200 students occupied the computer center, keeping it relatively clean and unvandalized, waiting for the administration to meet their demands. Some of the administration believed that the students would become violent. Others were extremely relieved that the students were willing and ready to negotiate. 13 days into the protest, it seemed like a mutual agreement had been reached and a new committee would be formed to hear the 6 students' complaints, but the negotiations fell apart. The students were told by the lawyers that an agreement had been reached, and they believed it. After about half the students had left the building, the students were tricked and negotiations were stalled. They believed that it was all over and that they would get the demands that they asked for. But the students were betrayed and barricaded themselves further within the computer lab and began to throw the computer cards out the window. Vice Principal O'Brien then asked the Montreal police to come onto the scene and end the occupation. The police came onto the scene and began attacking the students. The students retaliated by turning fire hoses on the police. Ironic. But unfortunately, a suspicious fire had started and began to burn everything while the students were trapped inside. On the streets, the mob of white people began chanting, "Let the niggers burn." The doors were eventually axed down, and the students were able to escape the burning building into the batons of the police, where they were beaten severely. Many students were taken downtown. Almost all the students were let go, except for, you guessed it, the black ones, who served various time in jail. No one knows who started the fire, but it caused millions of dollars in damage. It should be noted that, like in the United States, Canada used people to infiltrate these organizations and movements and cause a disturbance. The States used COINTELPRO and William O'Neill to topple the Black Panther Party, and Canada has the RCMP and the biggest hater, Warren Hart. Hart was an agent for COINTELPRO and later served the RCMP to infiltrate Canadian organizations. His goal was to get close to Roosevelt Rosie Douglas, one of the people who helped organize the Congress of Black Writers and the Sir George William Affair. Hart aligned himself with Douglas, but also encouraged others in both black and indigenous organizations to commit subversive or violent acts. His goal was to incite criminal behavior so the authorities could move in on activists and arrest them, which would discredit them. This is also similar to Terror in Resonance when Five, the only survivor from the academy and the weapon for the FBI, subverted 9 and 12. She played games with them and used their bombs to frame them and attempted to kill them, thus tying up any loose ends to the project. We can also draw a parallel of the radical acts of the students with the radical acts of 9 and 12. In both cases, we see that they use radical acts as a way to show the violence of the government and how this violence was used against them. After the Congress of Black Writers and the Sir George William Affair, Canada began having an outcropping of black political organizations. The Black Action Party was formed in Montreal after the Congress of Black Writers and the Sir George Williams Affair, and it was influenced by the Black Panther Party. The Black Action Party's aim was to create an institution to educate, organize, and serve the black community in Quebec. The Black United Front was founded with the help of Stokely Carmichael by 2 heavy hitters, Burnley Rocky Jones and William Pearlie Oliver. Yeah, that William Pearlie Oliver, the other half of the dream team that helped Viola Desmond in her case. This organization was founded in 1965 in Nova Scotia and incorporated in 1971 as a non-profit and loosely based off the Black Panther Party and their 10-point plan as a guide. The Black United Front helped the community by holding discussions on employment, housing, and educational opportunities. It also formed a community police force to combat hard drugs in Halifax communities. They also built a community park called Tot Lot, and they sometimes offer free legal aid to the Black community. The Black United Front, preceded by the Nova Scotia Association for the Advancement of Colored People, remained in operation until 1996. Lastly, the Black Action Defense Committee, or BADC, was founded by Dudley Laws, Charles Roach, Sharona Hall, and Lennox Farrell. They founded this organization in 1988 after the shooting of Lester Donaldson, which was the latest in a string of police shootings. This organization directly influenced the creation of Ontario Special Investigation Unit. The Special Investigation Unit is a body that looks into police shootings, where before the police will look into their own misconduct. The efforts of these activists helped enshrine equal opportunity. In 1977, the federal government passed the Canadian Human Rights Act, a landmark law that prohibited discrimination on the basis of race, sex, religion, national origin, and disability in employment and service delivery. While it applied only to federally regulated industries, the act marked a significant step forward, affirming legal commitment to equality. The act also empowered the Canadian Human Rights Commission to investigate and adjudicate complaints, giving individuals a new mechanism to challenge systemic racism and other forms of discrimination. At the provincial level, similar human rights codes were either enacted or strengthened during this period, further embedding anti-discrimination principles across the country. The Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms was introduced in 1982 as a part of Canada's new constitution, and it was a seismic shift in how civil rights were protected. Unlike earlier laws, the Charter had constitutional authority. It could override conflicting legislation and was binding on all levels of government. For Black Canadians, the Charter became a foundational legal tool. It guaranteed freedoms of expression, association, equality, and protection against discrimination. It gave new strength to legal challenges in cases involving racial profiling, police misconduct, and unequal access to justice. 9 and 12 were able to open the world's eyes to the atrocities that were committed to them and to the other orphans. Over time, Black community groups would draw on the Charter in court to fight systemic racism in education, employment, and the criminal justice system. Unlike the US, the Canadian movement often faced a national narrative that denied the existence of significant racism, with activism focusing heavily on anti-Black racism in education, policing, and immigration, much like 9 and 12, who were seen invisible by society. Not everyone in the Black community felt change was happening fast enough or at all. Beneath the surface of progress and Canadian politeness, a new energy was bubbling up, an unapologetic energy rooted in justice, identity, and self-determination. Young Black Canadians stopped asking for inclusion and started demanding more. This is also in line with 9 and 12, who used these radical acts as a way to be seen and heard. This anime uses the plot as a metaphor for marginalized and oppressed communities who have no way for justice to prevail, so they turn the system on itself. Whether it's a literal atomic bomb or a fire in a computer lab, both narratives demand society acknowledges and change the reality of their society. Alright y'all, that's it. Thank you for joining. I hope you learned something. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more of your favorite anime-infused Black history. Until next time, peace.